You're listening to episode 213 of the Comics Pals. We're a group of comic book journalists and friends who record a podcast together because we don't talk enough about comics in our daily lives.
Guys, I really miss him.
Miss who?
Marco, I don't know if he was really the imposter at Among Us when we played it, and he's dead now.
He's dead. He was dead last week, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Threw him out the ship.
Listen, I don't have time to go through a whole thing, but it's me, your friendly neighborhood Goldballs. Here on Krakoa, we just bring people back. So
He's emerged from an egg for you audio listeners. He's alive.
Hey, everybody.
I hatch an egg and Marco comes out.
That was a very visual thing that just happened, but Marco just popped out of
an egg.
An egg or a box.
It was an egg.
Definitely an egg.
Yeah, of course.
Guys, I've missed what's going on. It's been wild. Did you hear Jay Garrick won the election yesterday?
Okay.
Wait a second.
That's about on brand. Yeah.
Wait a second. Marco was on the show last week, though. He's coming out of an egg now.
No, he wasn't.
He
Was
was
that the real Marco last week?
I was on the show last week. Jay Garrick won.
Oh, I see.
Remember,
No.
he hatched from his memory is from when he died.
What are you talking about? Died?
Marco, I don't.
What?
All right, listen. You died. Phil killed you. That's something you guys can hash out later.
Yeah.
And you're back now, and we have to do the show. So you're just gonna have to accept those things and move forward.
Oh, is that what that is in my back?
Oh no. Yeah. Do you think on Krakoa, when they die, they have the scars from their deaths from before?
No, because it's
Surely
the first
not.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's the memory of what was their body at the time of their recording or whatever. No, I guess their memories are the recording.
Well,
Mark,
I
I
mean,
don't
they literally
alarm you.
get a new. They like make bodies,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to alarm you,
very
Marco,
weird.
but I'm just glad you're back.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Actually, that
Nothing
is
weird
alarming.
happened while you were dead. Nothing.
I mean, how could it?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the show. Marco's resurrection aside, glad to have you back, dude. We are Sans Pete, so I guess his Krakoan resurrection will have to wait for next week.
Probably
These
long.
I'm ready for that thumbnail.
He doesn't have commitment to a bit, so
It's it is what it is. You're stuck with the rest of us. We've got a lot to talk about this week. We've got 4 reviews. My God, you would think we're becoming the long box. We're reviewing Dark Knight's Death Metal number 5. What else? Cable number 6. Hellions number 6, and what was that last book? X-Force 14. Yeah. So we've got some reviews on tap for you guys. Continuing with the 10 of Swords event, which will be ending next week. So make sure you guys tune in for that.
Wow.
And we've got lots to talk about. Now, I am sparing us a conversation about Justice League, Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut. So praise me.
Thank
Wait,
you, Sean.
why would I want to talk about that? Why would I?
Well, Sean,
If anything,
thank
boo.
No. All right.
you.
Well,
You've spared my weak.
Wait,
soul.
I'm confused. Next week is the last week of Sort of X. We have like 2 weeks left.
I get it. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you want to keep up with everything that we have going on, there are lots of ways that you can do that. You can reach out to us on social media at The Comics Pals. Get us wherever your podcasts are sold at The Comics Pals, which includes our new host, Podbean. You guys have shown a lot of support over there, so we appreciate you for that. Keep it up. Make sure that you guys are leaving us those sweet ratings. Apple Podcasts, wherever it is, Spotify. Make sure that you guys are leaving us a 5-star rating or whatever it is you think we deserve. You can hit us up at thecomicspals@gmail.com if you want to chat. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. You will notice that I kept my word and I no longer have my quarantine beard. I had to get rid of it because I intend on staying in a relationship.
And it was too expensive to feed, right? Like
he shaved his quarantine beard, but he's still in his quarantine relationship.
Yeah, 9 years of
right.
quarantining. Yes. Make sure that you guys, while you're on YouTube, are hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you're made aware of when we drop new content. Also, of course,
just like Marco, nude content.
Can't support that.
Not on YouTube.
We'll
Join
start
my
a-
OnlyFans.
Yeah, we'll start an OnlyFans.
No, we won't. And last but not least, make sure that you guys are joining our Discord server, where we are always having really fun conversations. I don't even know what we've been talking about this week. I can't think of anything, but
Ethis, and I think it was Sultan of Swing, Mike, and I had a really cool conversation about Star Trek. I think they heard my Star Trek poll last week and wanted to talk about it. We talked about how cool Discovery is, and frankly has no right to be.
I heard the second season of that show was a disaster.
No way, dude. The second season fucking rules.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I heard that show was bad. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I didn't like the first season, but after watching the second season, I sort of, and I wrote an article about this on that website that Rachel Conrad and
The Nerd League.
The Nerd League. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was. I wrote an article about it.
That's funny.
So what it felt like they were trying to do was they were showing in the first season what a bad captain looks like. So if you take the captain of Discovery in the first season and you put him against like Picard, he's a real shitty captain. But then they put someone who's like the golden image of a Star Trek captain, Pike, who is he was the Enterprise captain before Captain Kirk, and they put him in the middle of the mix, and it immediately felt like Star Trek.
Interesting. That was a very frequent dynamic in classic Star Trek, which had like either Kirk, Picard, depending on the show, coming in contact with a bad captain. It's a very, very easy dynamic. This guy's getting in danger of everyone's lives.
Yeah, this is cool because you spend the season with the bad captain.
See. So we do have some listener comments. We've got a couple of comments from one Rammer on YouTube.
Now on the Discord.
Now also on the Discord, yes.
Oh, sick.
A fellow convert. And he says, loving the management and off the cuffness. This is a comment on our most recent episode, DC Bloodbath 2, and the 10 of Swords reviews. He said, loving the management and off the cuffness. Thanks for keeping me abreast to what's happening in comics. This pandemic got me off my anchor. Geiger sounds curious. I'm so
Geiger.
freaking down for X-Men Legends.
Rated R starts Friday.
In a world.
He then followed up with a comment saying, BTW. The thing about Betsy getting shattered, read the previous issue. It was hinted.
Oh,
I'm
well, it was
guessing-
hinted.
I'm guessing Saturnine has a thing for Brian and would like him to be Captain Britain. She isn't dead. She's just shattered. She'll be blow-glassed to life again. Tarot are all symbolic. The sword symbol is included. Well, Rammer,
And if you
Read
join
the-
if you join the Discord, you could read his novel that he put in the review, outlining the whole thing.
It was good.
We asked for it
It's
last
very
week, did we not?
It's very in detail. It does legitimately sound good.
I know Rammer. Rammer's a big X-Men fan. So yeah, that makes sense. But Rammer, man, you guess that Saturnine has a thing for Captain Britain?
Not
You
reading
think
that
so?
close, then, right?
You got to
Like,
read the no. You got to read the previous issue.
Okay.
Appreciate you writing in, dude. Thanks for listening.
Now, when he says he likes management, he's definitely talking about DC management, right?
No, he's talking about me, the definition of middle management. Someone who thinks they have power but really doesn't and wields it mightily.
doesn't get
I like
paid enough
that.
for what they do.
That's right.
Or gets paid too much for what they do, which might be true in my case.
Well,
Speaking of all things Krakoa, the internet was abuzz this week with fire and fury, as tends to be the case on X Twitter, because of one Franklin Richards. Now, you might be thinking, wait, what does Franklin Richards have to do with X-Men? We know that Franklin Richards is an Omega level mutant, or at least traditionally has been. In House and Powers 1, Franklin Richards, or the Fantastic Four, are approached by Cyclops, and he's kind of like, hey, invite your kid, or we're inviting your kid to Krakoa. He's a mutant, and he belongs with his true family. And then there was that X-Men plus Fantastic Four event that was all about that whole situation. This week in Fantastic Four 26, that was followed up on, and we learned that Franklin is not actually a mutant.
What? It's a lie?
Not quite. It's not quite a lie. He basically used up all his powers.
That's how genetics works.
Let me talk. He used up all his powers. Okay. And he I guess he unwittingly altered his cells in his body to make it appear as if he were a mutant, because when he was young he wanted to be someone special, and so that made him into a mutant. And now that he used up all his powers after Secret Wars, when he and the Fantastic Four were gallivanting across the galaxy recreating it, all the things that have happened to him since then exhausted his power set. And so because of that, he lost his powers and he's no longer a mutant. That's one thing. But what's got people so upset is this dialogue between Professor Xavier and Franklin Richards.
is this who's the writer on this? Is it Dan Slott?
Dan Slott, yeah. Professor X says, because you are not a mutant, and according to Cerebro, you have never been one. As a child, you dreamed of being different, special. Without intending to, you used your cosmic powers to alter every cell in your own body till it appeared as if you possessed the X gene. I'm sure this comes as a shock to you too, and you have many questions, but you're going to have to work out the answers for yourself. I am very sorry, Franklin, but you are no longer welcome on Krakoa.
Yeah. But if Cerebro says he was never a mutant, why would they go after him in the first place?
Because they thought he was a mutant.
Because now it's no longer in effect. Like the thing that would have made him passable as a mutant.
Okay.
Right.
So wait, so he can only, I guess, manipulate reality to the extent that he's actually actively doing it. Like it's not permanent.
The reason that it didn't stick is because of the fact that ever since Secret Wars, he's been using his powers a lot and at high levels, and he's only a teenager still. So I guess he's kind of like running on empty, and that's something that they've been doing throughout the books. You can clearly see that he's been like exhausted and not as powerful, can't do the things he used to be able to, and so I guess this is the culmination of that.
I'm kind of afraid now. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, boy, I know that the day I lose taste for potatoes, that means I've used up my entire Irish ancestry. It'll be gone.
What will you be?
I don't know. I won't be special anymore.
North Irish?
Oh, we're gonna have troubles then. That was a clever joke you tossed me.
There was one tweet I think from Joseph Glass, and I don't know if you're going to go into that.
Of course.
Do you want to take that? Okay. So he tweeted out that he'd been sort of ruminating on it, and he made the argument that you can, or it's read offensively if you make the analogy of what X-Men typically represent, and if you were to replace the X gene factor with Franklin Richards with anything within the I guess the spectrum of being a minority, either being a woman, being trans, being gay, like you can replace that, and obviously it sends a bad message. And I read it, and then I was like, but he's a mutant, but not really because of his powers. And so then I dropped it.
Go ahead, Cale. I think you were about to jump in.
No, I was laughing at what Marco said.
That was my thing, and it's like, everyone's entitled to their read of these stories, but I think there comes a point in time where you have to take yourself out of it. Like, you're not a mutant. These are mutants, and being a mutant is not the same as being anything else under the sun. It just isn't. And this goes back to the Matthew Rosenberg thing from a couple of years ago, where he wrote Rain as what she is. She can turn into a wolf, and she was murdered, and people felt that was an allegory for what trans people go through, and they thought that it was disgusting and distasteful. Except that trans people don't transform at any given moment, and the idea of that is worse than whatever Matthew Rosenberg wrote. And that's how weird it gets when you start applying real life to characters that have powers that don't exist. Obviously, sometimes the allegory stops working, and I think this is one of those times. So we already know that the mutants now have this very militant perspective on exactly what it means to be a mutant. Let's not forget that Scarlet Witch is now one of the most hated people for mutants because of what she did as a quote-unquote mutant. and she's not even one, and we know that, right? Let's also not forget what the mutants make you do if you were a mutant and you were depowered. They make you go through the crucible. You die. Apocalypse kills you, and you are resurrected as a mutant.
So cool.
It's super cool, but it's also very brutal, right?
It's pretty savage. It's inhuman, but that's like kind of the theme of the story.
I don't know if "cool" is the word.
Yeah.
Nah, that's cool.
It's a cool. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But this is what they are now. This is what the mutants are. And so I don't think that Dan Slott was trying to send a transphobic or anti-minority message when he wrote that. I think he was specifically thinking about the way that the mutants are thinking about mutantdom now.
Sure, but I mean, my joke earlier was making light of the fact that it's weird. It doesn't have to be a direct allegory to the experience of minorities for it to be any less weird than it is. It's saying it's taking someone's heritage away and saying like, oh, you're not that anymore. It's weird. You could tell an interesting story with something like that, because like what it means to have a heritage and or be a certain race or whatever, that's a whole big thing. But obviously that's not like what Dan Slott's going for. Like on its face, for what it is, it's very strange.
I mean, but allegory or not, at the end of the day, like it'll probably get reversed the same way. Like it's also just comic book bullshit. Not to say that allegory isn't important, but just as easily as you found this one, there are different ones that work in the same way or in the opposite way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Is it like, to your point, Phil, about it being weird? Yeah, of course it's weird. We're talking about mutants, like it's weird. But his heritage, the idea of heritage, the way we understand it, right? In real life, you cannot take away the fact that I'm Black, right? Sure. It's impossible for you to do that.
Yeah.
And someone could say, oh, you're not Black enough because of X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
But I am what I am. And that is what it is. And that could be that person's view, but you can't say I'm not what I am. I mean, you can't make that true. And what I just said applies across the board. You can't make it true that someone isn't trans because you think they're not. That is what they are. They're telling you it is, believe them. This is different than that because of what it actually means to be a mutant. It's genetic, right? And it's something that in Marvel can be altered. So in the case of Franklin Richards specifically, similar to Scarlet Witch and the depowered mutants, they're not mutants.
It's a little more complicated that in some aspects. Like when it comes to people that have different gender identities, for instance, your sex may be, male or female, but your gender, might be something different. And that's where I think the issue lies, I guess, for people is there's plenty of people who identify as one thing and they're told they're another thing, and that's an issue. And that's what Xavier is doing to Franklin Richards. Now, obviously, in the context of the story, genetically, Franklin Richards is no longer a mutant. He doesn't have, the X, the X gene or whatever.
Yeah.
But I can see why it's rubbing people the wrong way. That on its own is one big quagmire. But inherently telling someone that believes they're one thing that they're not that thing is a whole other issue, and that's where people are upset.
The other, I guess, the question that I also had, because my understanding is that Franklin isn't integrated with mutants. Like he's been kept separate from mutants generally throughout the course of Marvel. So if his only, I guess, claim was that he had an X gene and he didn't participate in the culture of mutants. He didn't go to Xavier's school. If he wasn't part of what it means to be a mutant outside of having the gene, then what has changed outside of the fact that it's been revealed that his powers cause a misfire in Cerebro?
And I think, and again, like, I think what you're saying, Phil, it's not one-to-one.
Yeah, for sure.
I
don't disagree with that.
And so because of that, I don't think it's even, I think it does it for me personally, I think it does a disservice to all of the progress that we make as people whenever we say, oh, well, you can't do this because this reminds me of that. And in this case, especially, I don't think you can say, well, you can't say this about Franklin Richards because of how it makes me feel about myself. Because that's a limitation on storytelling, which is, for me at least, a big no-no. Especially in the case of, this is like human beings cannot alter their genetics. And Franklin can. That's different. And what makes someone a mutant is very specific. And Franklin can circumvent that. And it's a thing you have or don't. And it's not the same thing as saying, well, you can't say I identify as a mutant because it's a specific thing.
Sure.
So there you go.
Or in Franklin's case, he can mutate. He can adjust his gene to get the X gene, and then he'll say I'm a mutant, but to the extent that it's only that gene and he hasn't participated otherwise. Like he could have been totally disassociated away from them, never brought up, and then he's like, oh, look, cool, a mutant, I'm going to become a mutant. Then at that point, it's only to the extent that he has the ability to do so, not necessarily based off of the identity.
Sure. And I don't disagree with really any of this inherently. I don't have any interest in trying to limit what storytellers do or anything. It's a similar issue we run into a lot on this show when it comes to comic books reaching any kind of larger kind of pop culture bubble. X-Men, for what it is, you can't always. Sean, at the very beginning, you talked about how you can't really force the allegory, but for readers, X-Men have always just been, maybe not always, but at least for like the last 25, 30 years, have been an allegory for whatever oppressed minority group, right? And so whenever anything weird like this, which is where I started from, happens, people read into it. And
but
that's where we are.
I would say to that, the whole thing of the Powers of X, House of X, this whole thing has been about them reattaining and gaining power.
Absolutely.
So they're no longer in that, or they still remain in that minority insofar as they
have their own nation state now.
Right.
It's
exactly.
a little different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, and like you read these comments and they're reading so far into it that people can't accept, like, oh, this era of mutant is bad because they are willing to align themselves with a genocidal villain in Apocalypse. And a colonialist, like all these extra things. Like, okay, cool, like I get your political alignment, read the comic.
Those are fair criticisms. Maybe the X-Men aren't heroes. That's something we've been talking about since the very beginning of Hoxpox.
But that's interesting. That's
not
that's
what I'm saying.
bad.
Yeah.
Like that's not bad storytelling. That makes them interesting. Like, why can't that happen? Apocalypse is bad, or was.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything. When you have characters you've been attached to for 30, we talked about this last week, the last 2 weeks, the long anchor of continuity. when you've been reading characters you love so much for so long, like Cyclops and Jean Grey and Wolverine, and all of a sudden what they're doing is much more politically and morally ambiguous than it was at any point in their publication history. It's the same thing with the Captain America becoming part of Hydra. Feathers get ruffled.
They were wrong then too.
I'm surprised no one made a Nazi allegory or something.
Oh, of course they have.
Oh, have they really? I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's an ethnic state, right? That's the whole thing Nazis were doing.
Right.
So,
what is it, your first day on the internet? You didn't think anyone would go for Nazis first thing?
I didn't think there'd be Nazis on the internet. My bad.
There's definitely Nazis on the internet. We'll start with that. Yeah, and so that's a thing that happens a lot. I think let me put it this way. This is kind of a prefix to our conversation later. But one thing I had to grapple with after reading our 3 X books this week was my feelings over where I wanted this to go versus what I'm reading, and that's something that people deal with. Is they'll interject what they want onto whatever they're consuming, and they're not able to reconcile with what they wanted versus what they got. Now, what they got isn't necessarily a good thing, but they have to be at least able to try to process what they got. You know what I mean? It's the same thing here with the Hoxpox stuff, or with the Franklin Richards story.
Yeah. I just at the end of the day, man, I think we need to let the creators have the ability to tell stories and judge them on their merits. And I think, especially a guy like Dan Slott, man, woof, he's been through the ringer. My man got so many death threats for killing Spider-Man. I wonder what his inbox looks like now.
That's a good example of what we're talking about. People with long history of Spider-Man do something different. People get very upset.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Franklin Richards.
Marco, you're such a mutant since you hatched from that egg.
Hey, man, I had the X gene. I grew out of that thing.
That's right. So wait, interesting. That's a question.
Is it?
I don't know. No, listen. What if they killed Captain America or something and they chose to resurrect him in the egg? Would he have the X gene? Or is it just reserved for people that were once mutants?
No, you have to be a mutant to do it.
One. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's a whole Crucible thing, is that people that don't have mutant abilities anymore get resurrected with mutant abilities. Obviously, I guess they were deactivated from Scarlet Witch or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason I ask.
But it's not that's not what's happening. They're going back to a prior
body state
log of themselves. So there's no version of Captain America that's a mutant, so they can't go back.
Okay. That'd be kind of campy, huh?
Yes, to say the least. This won't factor in the rest of our conversation later, but if you're interested, there is an article on Bleeding Cool. It's from a couple weeks ago, detailing how all the big ideas from House of X very well may have come from Alan Moore's Captain Britain.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's also there's another book called The 7 Lives of...
Love it. Yeah. The 13 Lives of...
starts with an A, like Adelaide Brown or some shit.
August.
Alan Moore.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, I have the book and it's good, but I can't remember.
Do you have it?
Yeah. I went out and bought
Harry
it after
August.
that.
Yeah, Harry
the first
August.
15 Lives of Harry August. Yeah.
Didn't you reference that for the Moira stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Moira stuff seems to have been influenced by that book.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The resurrection of mutants and the infinite lifespan of mutantdom, all that good stuff, like to an uncanny degree, existed in that Captain Britain book. And even the look, like the art style, the color style that they use, you see it when they resurrect Captain Britain in this book. Like it's actually crazy when I was reading this article how similar it all was. But yeah, so maybe because I remember Jonathan Hickman said that he had a story. I mentioned this last week, that he said he had a story that he had been dying to tell, that he wanted to tell. And obviously that's an old book. It's possible that Hickman read that when he was young and said, what if you took what they did to Captain Britain and applied that to all of mutants? And that's how they got here.
That could be why Excalibur is such a big deal in this era as well. Yeah.
And actually Saturnine is in that book, and so is Jim Jaspers, who has been a big deal in this story as well. Jim Jaspers for those of you who don't know who he is, he's the guy in that weird like town,
the market.
The market, who has this infinite power, but is clearly like a slave of Saturnine or whatever. All of that story comes from Captain Britain.
He's such a 70s throwback character. Like he feels like he could spring right from the pages of a Chris Claremont X-Men book and feel right at home.
Let's jump into the Pals polls. We've got from Cale and Phil, The Question, the deaths of Vic Sage.
So this is that Black Label series that Jeff Lemire did with Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. This is the first 4 issues, or I guess the 4 issues. I think it was a mini series. I don't know. I'm real pumped about this. Jeff Lemire is along with Matt Kint are very silent favorites of mine. They're people I don't think I like, and then when I read their stuff, I definitely like them. What the hell was I thinking? So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with The Question here, especially with this old talent.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We don't get enough Question stuff in general, I feel. So that's really exciting. And Bill Sienkiewicz, he's a really good artist.
Yeah.
He's been around for a long time, long time. I'm really excited for a good Question story. I feel like the last time we got one was 30 years ago, right? Oh my God.
Depends on your perspective, but I like the Greg Rucka stuff that came out of
52? New 52, or 52 rather. Yeah, that was very good. So it's been 15 years.
So 20 years, yeah.
Jeez.
As for me, I went with Other History of the DC Universe, #1. So this is a book that they've been talking about for the longest. It was rumored, then it was announced, then it was delayed, and they've been touting John Ridley, who wrote 12 Years a Slave, or is it 13 Years a Slave, whatever it is,
12,
as this great writer. I didn't see that movie, and I want to know what all the fuss is about. This is supposed to be a story about the DC universe from the perspective of the minority characters that exist inside of it, and that's an interesting angle. Also, a selling point for me is the artwork of one Giuseppe Camuncoli, who is one of my favorite artists in the industry. He had a tremendous run with Dan Slott on Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, in the aftermath of Secret Wars. What a beautiful book. Fun fact, the colorist on that book was Mark DeGracia. And that was the first time I ever saw his work. And that's when I fell in love. So I'm hyped for that. Then I also chose Ten of Swords Destruction 1. Obviously, next week, as I said before, is the last week of books in this event. And I'm interested in how it ends. The creation issue that started this whole thing was probably the best issue of this run so far. And so, and when I say this run, I mean this event. And so I'm interested to see how they wrap it up. Now, let's jump into the news. We're starting with something huge. We finally now know what the fate of Wonder Woman 1984 will be. And that is something that I don't think I saw anybody suggesting. Wonder Woman 1984 will still release on its release date of December 25th, Christmas?
25th?
Yeah, on Christmas Day, but it will release simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max.
Let's go!
Okay, I guess we're all gonna have to get on our hazmat suits so that when we go to the movie theater, we are safe. We'll sit down. They'll shoot our popcorn to us through a giant tube in the movie theater.
Wait, Sean,
and then they got to spray a desanitization mist all over us to make sure we're safe. I think we can do this, guys.
Sean,
you'll have your hazmat suits, right?
No, we should rent out a theater like they've been doing at the AMC and just watch that shit.
That would be fucking awesome.
Yo, it's only $100.
Is it really?
Yeah, supposedly.
Fuck.
Let's do it.
Shit.
Hold on, let me double check.
Do it, and then do it, and then do a podcast from it. Like,
oh,
right?
Live reaction.
Imagine. Let's just set up all of our stuff in an AMC and
Why not?
No, I'm not BSing. Let's do it. That's fun.
Yo, starting at $99, you can rent out a private theater for the AMC.
Damn.
But only that starting at.
Still though, like
split that between a few people.
That's it.
You're talking about a few dollars. I'm in.
Oh wait, I think it's for like specific movies. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out. Shoot, I wonder. You know what? We'll workshop that off.
Got us excited for a whole different thing.
Yeah, because I'm even thinking like, can we invite certain people? Like, if people can provide a test, like a
like
passing COVID test, like
I got an F on my COVID test.
Well, stay away from me.
Yes, sir.
So they're making this huge leap to release the movie simultaneously. It will actually be free in the sense that if you have HBO Max, you don't have to pay any additional money, which is counter to what Disney Plus did with the release of Mulan, where they did charge you an additional $30.
Right.
And so that's pretty cool. The downside of that, though, is that it will only be available on HBO Max for 1 month.
Wow.
So you've got to get in on that initial month to be able to watch it.
That's a month is fine now for like a debut of a major cinematic, blockbuster.
Yeah.
I think you would think people would hop on that within the first 2 weeks.
Especially if people are not trying to like go away for the holidays. If you're trying to find something to do over the new year, like let's just watch Wonder Woman or something.
Yeah, man. Most people aren't flying to California, during a pandemic during the holidays.
Crazy that somebody would do that.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but so the UK just went into their second lockdown, and they started it on November 2nd, and they were saying it was only going to be a month, and they're making this the government is making this huge deal about making Christmas as normal as possible. So it makes perfect sense that, of course, they would open the theaters and put all the because Tenet was a huge deal over there too over the summer. Yeah, it was huge.
That movie flopped.
Not in the UK.
Okay.
So I would bet they're gonna pump Wonder Woman into the theaters to try to get people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea. You know what? We're not going to pump you with a vaccine from Pfizer or Moderna. We're going to pump you with some Warner Brothers goodness. That'll stop COVID.
Right here.
That's right.
Get some Wonder Woman in those veins.
Damn, I might have to fly. I mean, someone might have to fly to the UK.
Athena, guide me.
So Patty Jenkins said about this, the time has come. At some point, you have to choose to share any love and joy you have to give over everything else. We love our movie as we love our fans. So we truly hope that our film brings a little bit of joy and reprieve to all of you this holiday season. Watch it in theaters where it is safe to do so. Check out the great work theaters have done to make it so, and available in the safety of your home on HBOMax where it is not. Happy holidays to all of you. We hope you enjoy our film as much as we enjoyed making it.
Watch this movie. Come support corporations.
My man, this is your first time on this podcast?
in the United States, that movie, I already forgot the name of it, that came out 2 months ago in theaters. What was it called, Cale?
Tenet.
That did very poorly. It bombed. It caused every other major studio to push their big blockbusters further back because people weren't ready to go to theaters. People are not going to theaters, and many of them are shutting down because of lack of for a lot of reasons, but they're shutting down. COVID is the worst it's been in the United States in like 48 out of the 50 states since April. I do not think people are going to go to theaters to see Wonder Woman 1984 for Christmas. However, Sonny Marco has been pushing for like 4 years on this podcast is like the advent of home entertainment movie, like major blockbuster films on streaming platforms. And so I think this specifically will be an interesting experiment of how well that kind of experiment can succeed.
I bet after a month, after that month that they've set, I bet we see an announcement from Marvel about Black Widow too.
Maybe.
So reports are saying that this has not caused Marvel or Disney to change their position on Black Widow
yet.
There's a couple of interesting wrinkles that we have to consider with all of this. So first of all, the primary reason why the executives at Warner want to do this is twofold. One, they fear that the movie will actually get stale if they don't put it out. Now, I don't mean in the sense that the reels will start to deteriorate or anything goofy like that.
I like the idea that movies are still shot on film.
Huh?
I mean, in the sense that, it's been 4 years since, or it will have been 4 years since the original Wonder Woman, if they were to wait until 2021. And they feel like the character hasn't been on screen in a long time. They don't want to lose the moment. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that HBOMax isn't a flop. It's in, I think, 9 million homes, somewhere in that region. But 70% of the people who have HBO did not upgrade to HBOMax, even though in some instances it was the same cost or slightly more expensive for you to do so.
I see.
And so, go ahead.
Sorry, because I remember there also being a Hulu add-on for HBO.
There is.
And that's cheaper than HBO Max itself, right?
Yep.
I wonder if people have that instead of just the standalone HBO.
Well, so I had the HBO add-on for Amazon.
Oh.
And it was the same price. It was a no-brainer to switch over.
Right.
So it made perfect sense. I mean, you get access to so many things. But this move, more than anything, is about raising awareness for the fact that HBO Max exists and getting people to see what it is so that they want to actually engage with it. Now, one of the things that I read was that industry insiders are suggesting that Warner is comfortable and aware of the fact that they will take a loss on this. They don't even expect more, like a significant amount more of people to jump on board with HBO Max in the sense of like this being competitive with how much money they would have made in theaters. What they really care about is getting people to see what HBO Max is and that it exists.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if anything, for them, there's a longer term value for having customers subscribe to HBO Max, even if they're not looking at the finances short term. It makes sense for them to at least be able to include to some extent a long term play within this movie release, because the theater releases and having it on the actual platform is like, that's obviously for the short term, and if they're expecting that loss, then there's also the potential for any long-term conversions coming on, and whatever that might be, right? It could be like, I don't know, I'm not even gonna put a percentage to it because I don't know, but the fact that they'll be able to get at least some volume of people subscribed equates to being able to capitalize off those people anyway, like over time.
Yeah. Ultimately, movies, unless you're the Marvel Cinematic Universe, are a fleeting financial experience. You know, and people like, you know, these studios make money off movies for a couple months. They'll make money off a couple months of their home release, even though people are buying home releases less and less because of streaming services. Obviously, the exception is Marvel because they've created such an elaborate, you know, web of movies at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it's a viable concept, because at this point, any movies that were shot in 2019 are basically going to take a loss at this point, because people aren't going to flock to the theaters for en masse to see anything like right now. Wonder Woman 1984 was, you know, one of the 3 biggest movies of 2020 in terms of anticipated release. You know, whatever happens, they're probably going to take a loss in terms of the production costs. But HBO Max is a long-term, you know, that's a long-term money scheme for Time Warner. So it makes sense to try to get a foot in the door. And for my money, HBO Max is, I think, the best streaming service right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because the TLC stuff?
I mean, they got all these Criterion Collection stuff. They got a lot of the hot, you know, DC app TV shows on there.
Studio Ghibli's there.
Yeah, exactly. They got some really high profile stuff on there that's not on, you know, the other streaming services, except Disney Plus has their own high profile stuff. But you know,
yeah. So it's an interesting move. I think it's probably the right thing to do. It's unfortunate for this movie. I was excited to try again with Wonder Woman, and I want that big screen experience. I hope that this doesn't take away the feeling of this character being epic and belonging on the big screen. I think those things are important, and this is territory we've never really been in before. So, you know, historically, Warner never wanted to make a Batman TV show because they felt like that would take some of his heat away. They never wanted him to be on TV because he's a movie character. Superman was allowed to be on television if the show was a romance or if he was a kid, you know, and it wasn't until recent that they've kind of softened that opinion and let him have let him be on that Supergirl show. And even on that, he's not the main character. So this is a turn for them. It's still a movie, but you can watch it on the small screen simultaneously with the big screen. It'll be very interesting to see how this impacts Wonder Woman 3 and Warner's confidence in the character going forward.
Yeah.
Sean, does this affect your confidence in the character?
No, no, it doesn't. But I'll tell you this right now: if this was Batman by Matt Reeves, they're not doing this.
Yeah.
I think in the mind of the Warner execs, they're on two separate tiers.
Yep. I think this shows you what they think of Wonder Woman, and I think that they're willing to use that character in this movie as an experiment to see what can happen, and if they can drive some more people to HBO Max, then it's a win. Right now, they're making nothing off the movie, so whatever they're gonna make, they're gonna make here, and they might as well cash in, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised Disney, at least, as of this week, is still saying they're not really interested in putting Black Widow on Disney Plus for something similar. Because hype-wise, I would say Black Widow is their least anticipated movie they've really maybe ever scheduled, or least anticipated for the last 6 or 7 years at least.
Well, I think right now they're looking at the Mandalorian stuff. Like, people have come back for that, so I'm assuming that that's what they're focused on, and they're not worried about it maybe quite yet, because they've seen all the influx come back for Mandalorian.
Well, so here's the difference, right? Since HBO Max release, they have not had a big thing. The Snyder Cut was supposed to be the big thing. There's nothing, unless you specifically like what's already there, they don't have that fresh IP or fresh show that's really bringing people in. The first exclusive that they had that I think is doing numbers for them is the Fresh Prince reunion special.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, they don't have anything. So they need this. Disney Plus doesn't need this. Disney Plus has a huge install base. People are way into it. Parents are way into it for their children, yada, yada, yada. They don't have to put Black Widow on there in order to drive people to Disney Plus. The question is, that $30 that they charged for Mulan, can they do that for Black Widow? They got a lot of negative feedback on that move. It made money, but a lot of people were upset about it. I don't know if they can do that again. Now, it remains to be seen. If Wonder Woman is such a colossal hit for HBO Max, maybe Disney thinks differently, but I think right now there's no reason for them to change their minds, and they should stay the course. So yeah, that's the skinny on what's going on with Wonder Woman. We will be able to watch it on Christmas, and you can bet your bottom dollar that we will have a review for you guys as soon as we can on that film.
In a theater.
In some additional Marvel or superhero news, we're switching to the Marvel side to talk about Thor Love and Thunder. So Thor Love and Thunder, of course, is Thor 4. And there's been some big news associated with this film. According to an insider, this movie is going to be feeling like Avengers 5 in the same way that Captain America Civil War felt like Avengers 2.5. Some people said it felt like Avengers 3, whatever.
Yeah.
Recently, we learned that in addition to all of the people you would expect to be in the movie, like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt and Vin Diesel are reprising their roles as Star Lord and Groot in this movie.
You totally distracted me. I was thinking, Vin Diesel's going to be in the movie?
When I first read the report, I thought the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's pretty significant. Obviously, the films have established a relationship between Thor and the Guardians. So when I first saw their announcement, because Vin Diesel announced it by mistake in an interview, but Chris Pratt is definitely official. So when I saw those two things, I was like, okay, fine, whatever. They're probably just a cameo. That's cool. For someone to describe this as an Avengers 5 feel and Chris Hemsworth recently said that they were really going to shake things up in the MCU with this movie. It makes me feel like this is the movie to look at in phase 4 of the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing when this phase was announced. We were talking about how it felt like there were no heavy hitters in here. Like maybe this was a phase where they would kind of just start the cycle over again, kind of a soft reboot of just kind of let things build up again. But when you describe it this way, it makes it sound like this is indeed the heavy hitter.
Yeah. The only movie that they have on tap that I've been excited about really has been Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Thor, I got to tell you, I liked Ragnarok. I did. I thought it was solid. That movie is so over the top, campy and stuff that I genuinely haven't been excited to see what else they have to say. Because I know they're not going to treat Jane Foster's, or at least I shouldn't say I know. I feel like they're not going to treat Jane Foster's story with the level of, I don't want to use this word, but I will, seriousness.
Gravity.
Yeah, gravity is a better word, yeah. With the level of gravity that it deserves. I feel like they're not going to do that. And now when you're telling me that all these other characters are in it, I don't see how she has the space and time to really get the attention that she deserves. And then when you add on to that, Taika Waititi loves to do those weird offbeat comedy things. I don't think you treat someone who's dying of cancer like that.
But I don't want to sell him short either. He also did Jojo Rabbit, which is a movie that deals with a lot of gravity in a very sincere way.
But it does have a lot of offbeat humor.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he, doesn't know how to do a serious scene.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It worries me.
I get it. Yeah, that was my first thought too. Is not necessarily that, he's not going to be able to treat Jane Foster's condition or whatever with the gravity it needs, but her story is going to get short shrifted, even just because Chris Hemsworth is going to be in the movie. Like, the reason Jane Foster's story is so impactful in the comics is because Thor isn't around being Thor. He was off being Thor Odinson or whatever. You know what I mean?
Isn't that kind of what we...
It was
is
a
that
separate...
not what we assumed?
It's a separate thing is what I mean. This isn't going to be a Jane Foster movie. This is going to be a Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman film. And now Chris Pratt and Vin Diesel are in it too.
And Christian Bale, by the way.
Oh,
That's
really?
right.
So
Yeah,
playing the villain.
she might as well just not even.
Wait, he's the bad
she's
guy?
barely going to be on the poster,
Yeah.
I bet.
No, she's the main character.
No, she's not, my man.
Is it not her movie? Like, isn't the selling point is that they brought, like, Natalie Portman did not want to come back. She came back because they made her the main character of this movie. So she's got to be the main character. But what percentage of that is she going to be? Is she going to be like 90% the main character, or is it going to be more like 60% of the main character?
But that's what I'm saying is it ain't going to be enough, given that Chris Hemsworth and all these other people are going to be in the movie, and she's supposed to be the hot new Thor. Well, she'll be hot for sure. It's Natalie Portman. Come on. Let
me pose this question, because I think it's weird that Thor is the character getting a fourth movie. He's the first character to get a fourth installment. I think, and I'm asking you guys if you think this way or you think differently, that the reason that they're doing this is actually because they want to pass the baton from Chris Hemsworth to Natalie Portman to have, her be Thor going forward and to establish a new era of the Avengers with this movie.
Maybe.
Was that not the assumption? Because I had thought that was the whole point of this, was that, you know, Natalie Portman was going to be the new Thor because she's even in this movie to begin with.
Yes, well, that is the assumption. What Sean is saying is they're going to pass the baton. Like, overall, we're not going to see Chris Hemsworth anymore.
That wasn't my assumption, and I'll tell you why. The way the last Avengers movie ended, Chris Hemsworth was riding the ship that the Guardians of the Galaxy were on. I assumed that he was going to be in Guardians. I thought he was just transitioning over. So, you know.
I don't see it that way, Sean, because it seems like Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi are having fun. It seems like they've hit their stride and they like what they're doing finally. So, you know.
Does it matter to you if, like, would it bother you if they did, or is that what you need them to do to be happy? The idea of Chris Hemsworth transitioning out of the role. Would you like that, or would you not like
that? You're probably asking the wrong person. I don't particularly.
Well, just, you know, asking you guys.
I guess if they're gonna do the Jane Foster thing, yeah, why not? Like, if you're gonna do it.
Right. Yeah, like I don't know that I'm gonna be upset at seeing Chris Hemsworth leave, especially if it's in like some sort of graceful way, or they, you know, like if they get rid of him in some sort of satisfying way for the story, it's fine. That I think that Marvel's capable of doing that. I'm not upset by having it be either Jane Foster or whatever. Like, it's no big deal as long as it fits the story, it makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever they do. I want a good story first and foremost. I, like many people, did not really care about Thor 1 or 2 very much, and honestly, I didn't really care for Thor 3 that much either. No, we've reviewed it on the show. I was kind of down on it, but that said, the evolution of Chris Hemsworth as being a serious stoic actor to being more of a comedic actor has been a great evolution, because he's got comedic chops, and we've only been able to see that really in the last 3 movies that he was in. You know, the 2 Avengers movies, and then, you know, the Ragnarok. I'd be interested in seeing that develop more in other movies. Like, that's why I think he would be a good fit in that Guardians 3, because I think you'd really have that opportunity to showcase that. But, you know, I'm not like attached to it. If they're transitioning him out because he's tired of doing stuff, because I mean, the reality is he's had to maintain this regiment and diet of his for like 9 years at this point. And we've heard Hugh Jackman talk about what it's like to sustain this kind of super heroic physique for a decade plus. It's just so taxing and tiring and tough. I wouldn't blame him if he was ready to, you know, sidestep out, because that was certainly the feeling I got from Chris Evans. I think he was also just tired of having to maintain a godlike physique.
Phil, give me Canadian Wolverine, but after he's done needing to maintain a godlike physique.
Huh? Oh my! I had too many Molsons. I'm famished. Now I gotta eat some Taco Bell, eh? You know, they come from Canada. Oh, it's not easy maintaining this physique, eh? This beard gut of mine. That you got to really maintain it. You got to down at least 4 or 5 packs of Molson every day, because the healing factor like this, you don't feel it right away. Oh,
thanks, Marco.
That was gonna land better.
So yeah, high concept. Chris Hemsworth is going to maintain his physique anyway, because that's where his bread is buttered. He's a man in the prime of his life, and he's a top billing actor. That Extraction movie on Netflix was a crazy huge success.
Yeah, it was good.
And he's got to keep doing that. So if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well do it for Marvel, in addition to whoever else wants to pay you. I am a lot more comfortable with the passing of the torch, if Thor sticks around, like if Chris Hemsworth is still there, but he's not necessarily Thor, like what they did in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very different in film than television or than comics, because when you have a movie called Thor, people expect to see Chris Hemsworth in it, and if Chris Hemsworth is in it, then inevitably Natalie Portman's character will not have as much shine. She's sharing the screen with someone who, I mean, has been the character for over a decade at this point. And I think that will be tough if they're going to do this going forward. If this is the way forward, I think that will be hard. So I'm going out on a limb, and I'm going to say that Natalie Portman will not be Thor past this movie. That's my bet.
Oh, interesting.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Because I would also bet Natalie Portman probably doesn't want to be attached for too long as well. And, you know, the Jane Foster character really could die at the end of the film, you know, from her illness, and we still have Thor.
I also think that... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of like those like big A-list type actors never seem like they want to do more than a couple movies in like a franchise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that they're going to want to introduce Beta Ray Bill too at some point.
That'd
you
be
can't
sick.
have 3 Thors run. I mean, you literally can, but I don't think they're going to have all that going on. So I think she'll do a one and done with this character.
That'd be so sick.
Let's dive into the comic space here. We've got a new book announcement from Image. They've announced a book called Radiant Black, which
Geiger.
I've been thinking about that all week, man. They describe as, and this messed me up, a collision between Power Rangers and Invincible.
Oh. What?
Huh.
Now, when I read this, I thought, wait, are Invincible and Power Rangers crossing over? But that's not the case. It's an original story by Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. And so, obviously, Kyle Higgins did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Okay.
Great success.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's going to be, you know, taking what he learned over there and applying it to this story. Cale, I think this is up your alley. If you look at the character design,
I saw Michael Cho's variant cover.
Yes.
And it looks sick as hell.
Yeah. This character looks really awesome. Certainly looks like it could be like a character in Power Rangers, which is definitely not a bad thing in my mind. But here's the pitch. I actually thought it was a pretty interesting concept. So what it is, all right. So what it is, Radiant Black follows Nathan Burnett, and as he turns 30, things aren't so great. He's working at 2 jobs, but seemingly failing at both and struggling with credit card debt, meaning that he is all of us. Meaning that his best move is to move back in with his parents. That all changes, though, when he discovers and unlocks the ethereal cosmic radiant, giving him the power to change his fortunes and help others. Unfortunately, he soon discovers the powers he's unlocked don't belong to him, and the cosmic beings that created them will go to any lengths to get them back. So I think that's really interesting. Image doesn't have a lot of books that can serve you if you really love superheroes. And this is kind of a superhero story, but without the constraints of a Marvel or DC where the story has to go on forever and you're basically, you know, accepting the fact that you don't get to tell the final tale with this character. So this serves 2 audiences. This is for the crowd that loves superheroes, but also the crowd that likes their stories to end.
This serves 2 audiences: Cale and Pete.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. You know I love my stories to end. You know that. If there's one thing you know about me, it's that I love an ending. In fact, I yearn for mine.
That's right. That's right.
Ooh, this Finch cover looks really fucking good too. Damn.
Yeah. These covers are hot. Marco, does this appeal to you at all, man?
Oh, I've been on mute.
Oh.
Yeah.
You dumbass.
Yeah, it does. This logo in particular, I was just like it looks really, really cool. I like the aesthetic of like the book so far, and especially that Michael Cho cover. It's really nice. Yeah, this looks really cool.
Oh shit.
Yeah. This is hot. Like, I think that this is going to be a pretty sizable hit for Image.
Should we?
They need it.
Should we share the screen so the YouTube viewers can see the covers we're talking about?
Oh yeah, sure. We can absolutely do that. I will show off these covers and have you guys take a look because this is really cool stuff. Here we go. Yeah, so check this out. This is the Michael Cho cover that we've all been raving about. Just look at this design, right? Like, this is super cool. Yeah. This comes out in February, by the way. And Marco mentioned the design of the title. Look at how cool that is. Angular, slick, stylish. I love the way what they did with the A's here. That's super cool.
Yeah. That
yeah,
little
this is just
symbol nice too is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Awesome design work there. This cover here is also pretty cool. It reminds me
like a very good.
It reminds me of Rocket Man, but I don't know if
yeah. I was gonna say it was very Superman-like, but Rocket Man is good.
This is just a blank cover. That's fine.
I thought there was something wrong with my computer. I saw that. Oh, why isn't the cover loading?
I had the same exact thought, actually. And then this one is
the Finch cover. Yeah.
Yeah. This will probably end up being the money cover.
Yeah. The one that Midtown's going to make.
David Finch don't work for cheap. Yep. And I ain't paying.
No. So scroll down just a little bit further. The interior art, they show the moment of transformation or whatever. And that moment is just as cool as the covers, frankly.
So if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see along with us as we check out the character actually getting the powers. And you see the first moment of him in his suit, which, again, is pretty sweet.
It looks like Gravity from Marvel meets Tally from Mass Effect.
Wow, I haven't thought about Gravity in the longest.
Yeah.
I like how alien it looks.
Yeah.
That's really cool to me.
Yeah, there's no, like, mouth or nose.
And even the eyes look a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
White eyes, like from a Batman comic with no pupils.
This is one of those character designs where I'd actually love to hear the artist talk about how they arrived at this. Because as simple and as slick as it looks, I'm sure that a lot of iteration went into getting this down.
Yep.
So hats off. The artist on the book is Marcelo Costa, with Becca Carey as well involved. So awesome stuff. I can't wait for this book.
It looks rad as hell. Yeah.
So I would say it's safe to say you can expect a review from us on this when it drops, because we're all obviously excited, and it seems like it's going to be the start of something cool. So I think we'll be in for at least the first issue. Is that fair to say, guys?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Why not? Kyle Higgins, man, his star has really gone up the last 2 or 3 years. I remember people were kind of down on him in a New 52 during Nightwing for whatever reason.
Yep.
But as soon as he did Power Rangers, He became kind of a star.
Oh, that
Because
was him.
He was dragged down by the New 52 is why it didn't work.
Oh, there we go.
Damn. Yo, that Nightwing run was good.
It was all right, yeah.
So, go ahead.
Sorry, did you guys see while we were scrolling through that Goku's voice actor died?
The Goku's voice actor for the
Ocean dub.
The Ocean dub. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, condolences.
He did other anime as well, but yeah, that sucked.
Yeah. Definitely a bummer. What is not a bummer though is how well comics have been performing on Kickstarter in the year 2020. We've talked a lot about the doom and gloom of the industry as it relates to COVID and how it has devastated retailers, shops across the world. But one place where comics have been thriving is on Kickstarter. We've talked before about the Spawn Kickstarter that Todd McFarlane did for the toys and how well that did. And what we said at the time was that it showed that although retailers have been devastated, comic book fans have money to burn. And one of the things that I've learned personally this year especially is that comics are a medium for people with expendable money. They're super expensive. You can't just buy one and call it a day. And it seems that people who buy comics tend to be, they tend to have a little bit more money to spend. And so what we have learned is that comic book sales on Kickstarter are up over 30% from 2019.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
With still 2 months to go.
That's
incredible.
You'll love to see it.
According to the comics outreach lead at Kickstarter, Oriana Leckert, this is what they say. The category success rate hit its all-time high of 74%, almost twice as high as the site average across all Kickstarter categories.
Wow.
That's incredible. And it's so promising because when you think about Kickstarter, it's really for people who don't have the means, to get their book published otherwise. Now, when we talk about the list of what the biggest sellers are, you'll see that some of these are people that absolutely could have done it without Kickstarter. But that $22 million has to have hit the pockets of people who needed the help. So if you're someone who wants to create comics, take heart in this news.
Sorry. I was going to say, just for my experience, this year I got my first big boy credit card. Credit card with a comma.
$10,000.
Yeah.
With a comma.
And I've been on Kickstarter more than I've ever done in my comics life.
Yeah, it's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And actually, that said, Helm Greycastle is actually one that Claire Napier did some edits on. So you should go check that out. It's also being written by Henry Barajas, who's the creator of La Voz de Mayo, Tata Rambo, which we actually interviewed for the PAL. So you guys can go check that out as well. Both really, really awesome creators. Claire, we had a great conversation with. And it's almost up to its total pledge level, but there's still 18 days to go as of this recording. So if you have the time and you want to go check something out from two creators that I think are definitely up there, you should check it out. Helm Greycastle, #1.
Love when Marco says Spanish words. It's just pleasing on the ear,
Well, it's not my fault you guys have accents.
That's right. We've talked a lot about the health of the industry this year, and it's this is a year to reflect if there's any, right? And it's stuff like this that gives you confidence that no matter how bleak things do get, I think this art form and this industry has a pulse. It won't go away no matter how bleak things get.
That's what I keep saying. The sun don't rise and set on big two comics.
It doesn't, but it might rise and set on Keanu Reeves.
Oh no!
No, he's immortal. He'll be fine.
Berserker by Boom Studios is responsible for 1.4 of the $22 million.
That's wild.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Marco?
What?
What was that first word?
Nothing.
Yeah, so that's actually the most funded comics project ever on Kickstarter.
That's 6% of that total.
I bet
there you go.
Boom's never even seen that much money.
No one at Boom has ever had.
Yeah.
They also saw that comma.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Boom got their first big boy credit card, and they're also on Kickstarter and Patreon more than ever.
And there were other successes. I mean, to be frank, I don't recognize off the top of my head a single name on this list. I don't. I vaguely remember Coffin Comics. I think we talked about the announcement of them forming that studio, I want to say a couple of years ago. And they're on this list with Lady Death, Malevolent Decimation #1, and Lady Death Blasphemy Anthem #1. Both of those made over $300,000, which is an incredible amount of money. A lot of these seem to be horror books, actually. Lady Death, Treacherous Infamy is also on this list.
A lot of Lady Death.
Yeah, a lot of Lady Death. Ava's Demon, Book 2, and Ava's Demon Reborn. So it's a very, very interesting list. I actually am surprised Scott Snyder's book isn't on here.
Yeah, that's the second person I thought of after Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Iron Circus's Spike Trotman, who is a Kickstarter aficionado.
She fucking invented Kickstarter comics.
She said, if famous people or huge companies want to use Kickstarter, that's not a problem to me. That's maybe 1,000 or even 10,000 people who have never used Kickstarter before registering an account and investigating a site that's brand new to them. A lot of those people will stick around and back more than one project. And it's Keanu Reeves or Shenmue 3 or the Smithsonian or whatever that brought them here in the first place. And actually, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure that the first time something like that happened, that a big deal Hollywood type launched a project, Kickstarter actually compiled data about the backers and proved with hard numbers that a lot of those people went on to back other projects. Now,
that's a good point.
That's cool. In addition, Boom said that the day that the Kickstarter for Berserker ended, they would pledge $100 to every live project in the comics community for first-time creators.
Wow, that's really awesome. Did they?
Great question.
I don't have knowledge of that, but I would hope they did. That would be crazy if they said they would and didn't. But provided they did that, that's amazing. That's a boost for people who, are, again, first-time creators who might need that bump.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective from Spike Trotman on that. She said just above the quote you read on that article was a rising tide lifts all ships, or whatever that saying is. And that's absolutely true in terms of, independent, truly independent comics. Man, you love to see it.
That's what I keep saying, baby.
And that was what my frustration was when that conversation came up, because it's like, if you're a comic creator, you already know that from conventions. People go to conventions for a lot of reasons, but if you're an artist alley, a lot of the time you're there for the bigger names. But what you find is a whole slew of creators who you never heard of who are doing really cool things, and you spend money on them. I learned of so many different creators through that avenue.
Yeah.
If I wasn't in Artist Alley because I wanted to get my book signed by like Steve McNeven, I never would have met Dirk Manning. Like things like that, you know. And I think you got to have some perspective sometimes. I understand it's easy to get pissed off, but I think the proof is in the pudding. That $22 million did not go to Keanu Reeves. That went to everybody trying to do comics on Kickstarter. So
including a traditionally painted erotic comic about joining a supernatural BDSM community called Genitals Artemisia.
Thanks for that.
523% funded.
Damn.
And it's all Marco.
But
Marco and Keanu Reeves put the money behind that book.
But to your point, Sean, like we get the chance to support those creators who are on the come up, right? Like we had TJ recently on the show, and Greg Anderson, he's been on. We've interviewed him in the past, and that's just people that we pass by, and I like just looking around.
Well, our friends, Mark Bouchard was just on the show.
Yeah, Mark Bouchard. Like there's so many people that use this as an avenue to not even get their name out there, just tell a story, and that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know what else is powerful? My distaste for the first book we're going to be reviewing.
Oh man, that could go either way, frankly.
I know, right?
Man, we got 4 books and it could be any of them.
Dark Knight's Death Metal number 5.
All right.
So I know that I just said I have a powerful distaste for issue 5 of Death Metal by Snyder, Capullo, Glapion, and Placencia. Hopefully you already know who all those people are. But maybe that's harsh. Maybe that's a harsh way of putting it.
Oh, so what you mean is you told a lie.
You fibbed.
Yeah, and I do that every 10 minutes, and I find joy in it.
Yeah, it's fun to lie.
Like a normal adult.
We live in a society.
Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna make it my business next week on the show to tell a lie exactly every 10 minutes. You're not gonna know that I'm doing it.
Oh shit!
Discord
and then
will try to keep track of it.
The week after on Discord, I'm gonna put out Sean's Secrets Revealed, and I'm gonna reveal all of the lies that I said in the prior week's episode.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
I think
it's
it
not
could be
gonna
fun.
I'm not that good at this. So let's dive in, because it's not that I hate this book. It really isn't. It's just that I'm not having as much fun as I think Snyder and Capullo want me to. And it could be because of the way that I read comics. It could be because, you know, I take this seriously. Like, it's not that I can't have fun with the books. I do have fun with the books, but I want there to be a through line of this matters. And this book is so crazy and so off the wall that I have a hard time feeling like it matters.
But also so sort of homogenous at the same time in a weird way. Well, stuff like stuff like Luthor just popping up, and he's the opposite of Superman, and he uses the word doom, and people stand around and talk, and it's like as wild as it's supposed to be. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as everything else, really.
And the characters themselves aren't even fazed by how ridiculous all of this is. And that's something that, like what you just described, Cale, is what Snyder does all the time. He always does the like, oh, well, if Luthor is coming, then he must, Doom is coming. And, like all these like tropes you associate with the specific characters. And they're played out. And again, if you were loving this book, you'll read that and be like, haha, that's so funny. It's fun. But if you're not, that's annoying. And in my case, I found it to be annoying.
Cale, can you check your mic really quick?
Oh, he does sound a bit muffled, yeah.
Someone write that
looks
down.
fine.
I can.
Oh, I got it. I'll write it down real quick.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
I gotta make sure I can check it. Yeah, okay. It looks okay to me.
Okay.
What do you think, Marco?
Maybe it's the connection, like the internet connector. Then.
Yeah. It could be the I don't know what it is. I'm even connected, by Ethernet cable, and it's just my internet's just been shit lately.
All right, that's right.
I can pick up the ball here if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah. It's funny because certain writers, when they're around long enough, you can come to really pick out their isms, if you will, and that's certainly true of Scott Snyder. And that's certainly something that's been happening to Tom King lately. This issue especially, felt like a Saturday morning cartoon, like an 80s Saturday morning cartoon, where everything is just bombastic and nothing really, we're not stopping to take the time to make sense of anything or everything. It's not bothering me. I've taken it for what it is. I feel like that, well, whether or not it's the intent of the creative team or not, that's how I've taken it. And I've just accepted it for what it is. And I can absolutely see why Sean would be bothered by this, because it's like Snyder's attempting to do a Grant Morrison thing with none of the substance.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It very much feels like that, like Snyder aping Morrison, but not understanding, or it's just not in his wheelhouse to do to stick the landing on the zaniness the way that Morrison does. For me, whenever I read Morrison's work, it's always like, wow, this is crazy, but for some reason, somehow, some way, they're making this work, and I feel excited by it. Here, I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. Doom, Robin King, Perpetua, fine. There's 50,000 planets coming their way. Wow. Like, I don't know.
There's a thing we talked about in the last 2 weeks with the larger discussion of DC, potentially getting rid of continuity, and how it kind of boiled down to the quality of the creative team and making a continuity heavy book work or not. Like, you need to be able to do it. Like, you have to be able to walk the walk. The thing about Grant Morrison and his zaniness, when he gets zany, like bringing back the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh during his Batman run, something you would never think in a million years would work in a book in 2010 or whatever. He's able to like dig into the continuity and create such a level ground to stand on, that something like that can work. With something like this, we're not taking the time to build the foundation. We're trying to build a building from the top down, it feels like. So there is no foundation. It crumbles when you try to start from the top because there's no foundation underneath to support it, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what actually happens here.
Sure.
So the book opens with, these characters being confronted by, well, first of all, they got their butts kicked by the Robin King. Then, the Batman Who Laughs comes out of nowhere. Then they're fighting against this crazy, like, Bat Castle robot thing.
Neat.
It's Gotham, right? It's
Gotham as an entity.
Yeah. Which is fine. All of that is fine, but it's all like a lot. It's a lot.
That was disappointing. I loved it, by the way. I loved the idea of it. Like, it was really novel and interesting, like how things within this giant metropolitan city, I can defeat you because in this part of Gotham, there's this fucking plot device that will, render you useless. I thought that was really interesting. It's gone within 3 or 4 pages, and that was really disappointing. It was like B-Rex. Love that concept. Would have loved to see more of it. I understand there were some real world implications that made it impossible to see B-Rex more in the real world, but it doesn't change the fact that this creative team is introducing some really interesting stuff, and we're not like it's a drive-by.
Sure, yeah, like concepts that are exciting. You don't get to spend much time with because there's too much going on.
Exactly.
One thing that I did love from this sequence, and this is something that you kind of know if you know, but I just love the fact that the one person that he couldn't immediately dispatch was Wonder Woman, because Batman doesn't have an actual plan for how to beat Wonder Woman. And so when he's talking all that crap, he's kind of like, at least the way I interpreted it, trying to figure out what to do. But before he can, or if he even could, he gets taken out by Lex. So I kind of like that moment.
He brought doom.
Ugh.
I was curious on that because if you see that page where like the laser beam comes in, you see she's being like, I guess, crushed, and she starts to like tear. And then in the next panel over, right when he's getting shot, his eyes all of a sudden, that same eye has been hit with something or is like steaming.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like any sort of like artistic like jump off. I don't see him get hurt anywhere in his eye previously, so I was just curious about that. I don't know if there's anything there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, even on the prior page, his eye is smoky.
Yeah, but he doesn't get hit at any point.
I wonder if it's it's Superman's Omega beam thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can see how you could have missed that. There's just a lot going on in those pages too.
Yeah, you can't really tell that that's his eye.
Yeah. I actually missed the Superman beam the first time I read this issue.
That's another really neat concept, is giving Superman Omega beams. Again, it's a drive-by. We don't get to play with it very much.
Yeah. And then like every page, I feel like introduces a new concept or does something insane. Like on the next page from that, Lex has this, this ball that has what is it, Metropolis in it?
No, it has the Batcastle on it.
Yeah,
it's Gotham.
Right. It has. Yeah, he trapped it in the Batcastle, so it's Gotham, and he just, they just drop it on the ground. Like, that's a pretty cool concept that this crazy perverted version of Gotham that's alive would be in this ball, and then it's just gone. You know, like all these things happen and then go away. It's just really fast.
I like the idea of Luthor modifying Brainiac technology to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just neat ideas that we have no time to, like, honestly, like the ideas that come up in this issue alone could span a whole run of stories.
Yeah, absolutely they could. And I think this book, like this issue, when you think about this issue in conjunction with Rise of the New God and the news we recently got about the rumor of DC removing continuity, it feels like that's what's happening. Like this issue feels like it's selling that concept.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole what was it? There was like the whole conversation about
the knot and like the anti-crisis.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And all that really made me feel like that's like death metal is the death knell for continuity.
Yes. Yep.
In DC,
especially in, I don't know what page this is. This is 13, where we're looking at the knots. The second panel, it's saying, but anti-crisis energy is connective. It unites people through memory and history, reminding us we are all small but part of one epic story built by machine, and use it to unknot the timeline and restore everyone's memories. In doing so, you will connect us all to the truth and to create a powerful stream of anti-crisis energy you might be able to use to fight him. Like that, with my understanding, was this is the larger DC universe, and you're all going to get your memory back of everything that has happened. But each of those instances were still small pieces of this larger, not necessarily story, but this larger history, this like one epic story, right? That you're able to knot and unknot and basically pick and choose.
right? Yeah, I that was my read as well, and I remember something that Snyder had said before the book came out. He said that he actually went to Grant Morrison to try to talk to him about how to approach this story.
Kiss the ring and kiss the feet.
I wasn't sure why he would need to speak to Grant. I mean, you can kind of see why, because death metal is like a crazy story. But now that I read this issue, I'm reminded of the fact that Grant Morrison was the one who said, okay, well, everything matters for Batman.
Right.
So how do you approach that? And then he went on to do that. Well, Snyder's responsible for making it the case that everything matters for all these characters and having to get to the end point of the Omniverse. And I think he probably asked Grant for help on how to spearhead that initiative.
Crazy that's only like 8 years later. We're back to this. Fuck, man.
So, I mean, a lot of things happened in this issue in terms of learning information. This was a very info dumpy issue.
Yes.
As it gets us to whatever the eventual endpoint will be for this story. And now is the time where I start to really get frustrated, because now they're like, all right, well, here's this thing you didn't even know that now is going to be able to save the world. Anti-crisis energy, crisis energy. We're going to build a machine, like all these things that are now in motion. Lobo can make all these copies of himself, which maybe was a thing he could do. Never heard of it before, but I'm not a Lobo fan, so I don't know. Like all of a sudden, Lex Luthor is going on this diatribe about how he's, a small town person or whatever the hell he was talking about. Like, I don't know. There's just so much that happened. In between that, Perpetua's fighting the man who laughs, and they're talking about crazy cosmic stuff. And then you find out something that we didn't know before that's pretty big and I feel was glossed over here, which is that Batman is dead.
Yep.
And he's been dead the whole time.
Yep.
Was anybody else confused?
Yes.
I don't know, not so much confused as much as let down. Like, it's just like, there's no substance to it. It's all just, one-liners to get to the next thing, is what it feels like.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, I guess This is just a Batman, and this Batman's been dead. Okay, moving on.
But this is Batman though.
Right. I know, but the way the story is making it seem is that,
like,
well,
whatever.
because there's so many Earths. Oh, this is just one of the Batman, I guess.
Right.
And
it's making it seem like things don't matter.
Yeah, totally. Apparently, there were hints and clues to that throughout. I guess he has a Black Lantern ring, and you can only have that if you're dead. And
he used it at one point.
He did,
Jonah Hex.
Right. And I just assumed, like Phil said, because of the way this series started, that it was just a Batman. But guess not.
Lo and behold, it's Scott Snyder's Batman.
Yep. All of that worth it because on the second to last page, we get something that is hilarious, which is Penguin.
Oh, yeah.
I
was going to bring this up.
Penguin climbing up a mountain saying, I have a very sharp rock.
Cool,
I got
dude.
such a kick out of that.
Hell yeah.
It looks so tiny.
He's the real king here.
Bizarro, so not prepared.
That means he's very prepared.
That means he's ready.
Yeah.
I have a very sharp rock. Thanks, dude.
Great job, Dick Cheney.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious. Yo,
oh, no.
Yeah.
I shot the Riddler in the head by accident.
That's an old comparison.
I never heard that before.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's old.
So, yeah. I mean, look. I'm just not in on the joke. That's what I feel like when I read this book at this point. I don't feel like I am getting out of this what I'm supposed to, and it's technically all fine. You know, there's nothing like really wrong with it fundamentally, but I feel like it's too much, and Snyder's responsibility is so large that I feel like the script is bending to the pressure.
I don't think this is the book that they should have used to try to make the lead into their post-continuity era or whatever. I think this book is fine on its own. Like I said, it's fun. I don't take it very seriously, so I'm enjoying it for what it is. But if this is the book that's meant to usher this era of DC where continuity is loose and doesn't matter anymore, I mean, maybe that is appropriate because why take anything seriously?
I suppose. I mean, I'm also a little bummed out that this is like the swan song for Snyder and Capullo's relationship as it relates to Batman. And Snyder, or Capullo rather, is obviously one of the best artists in the industry. And I don't feel like he's really had much room to flex. This issue has so many panels, man. Like, every page is just like 5, 6, 7 panels. And I feel like Capullo doesn't really have the room to do what he does.
No. And then the panels that are 1 to 2, or the pages that are 1 to 2 or 3 panels are completely crammed full of every possible DC character there's ever been.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is nothing. It's like, I don't know if I was supposed to feel something for seeing Johnny Quick and the Mahunkel Red Tornado and Steel and let's see, who else can I name? Liberty Bell, like, and I don't know, a Guardian in a diaper. Like, what's the, what should I feel about that at this point? Well, it's listen, such a nothing.
I know you don't feel anything for any of these characters, but I know you're lying for a fact when you say you don't feel anything for Mahunkel's Red Tornado. I know you felt something seeing her.
You're right. The the idea that she would be so glossed over when she deserves a double page spread all on her own.
That's right.
Is a crime against God, frankly.
This is my favorite page in this issue. It's this one here, where the Trinity kind of have this conversation and they hug. Like, I really appreciated it because it was a small moment between these three characters who ultimately are why we're here. And Batman reveals he's dead and stuff, and Superman is irreversibly changed. And I hate those things, but I like these characters, and I wanted a moment like this. And the last panel is kind of like a picture, which I thought was pretty cool. But other than that, I just feel like there's not a lot here for me in this book.
Well, it's definitely nice when you're able to have a breathing moment, right? That actually makes it seem like the story matters.
Yeah. But it was 4 panels.
Yeah.
Out of a whole book.
Yeah. Out of it's 6 issues and 5 tie-ins in a whole series.
This is my final thought.
Yeah.
I was way more confused by Final Crisis because I was, very much younger. I wasn't like a DC head. So there was a lot of stuff that I didn't understand. But
I was DC head and I didn't understand it.
Well, there you go. But that series felt like it had more heart.
Yeah.
Because it had more focus. And that's what this series feels like it's lacking for me. I can't connect to it because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it has focus. Too much.
Yeah, man.
That's
Final Crisis felt. Yeah, I'm holding up an Absolute Edition of Final Crisis here. This book actually feels like a love letter to DC. Like, if you were to end the entire continuity of DC Comics, like, this would have been a good story to do it. But that was 11 years ago or something.
We should do that as a book club. I'd like to give that
a
try.
Been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's get into our Ten of Swords reviews. Here we are with the next 3 chapters. So 17, 18, 19.
And the androids. Sorry, that was a stupid ass joke.
That was good. That was good.
Right?
Wait till we get to Android 21, huh?
Yeah, right, baby.
Which one is that?
You'll look her up sometime.
One.
Is that the one Krillin marries?
No.
Nope, that's 18.
Oh.
So we're going to start with X-Force number 14. Benjamin Percy and Jerry Duggan are co-writing this book with Joshua Cassara on art.
What?
Guru
Again?
FX. Yeah. Guru FX on colors, Joe Caramagna on letters, and for the rest of these books, Tom Muller on designs. So this issue is
Yep.
Boy, oh boy. It continues the trend of very weird contests between the teams. And there's, a whole slew of battles that go down in literally one panel as they showcase the winners and losers of this tournament. It opens with a rematch between Pog and Magic, where we learn that Pog is actually like a little dude inside the body of the Pog, which is actually a weapon. I mean, it's called a sword. It's kind of like a suit.
Pog is sword and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like sword or sword. Pog means sword in that language or whatever.
Oracle, right. Yeah.
That sucked.
So something that Phil said earlier in the episode where so I read the other issues to catch up, and I think the expectation for where we thought this was going to go, like a straight up, fight to the death, 1v1s, this is obviously subverting that expectation. And I think trying to understand that and listening to your guys' reviews last week, I think what the intention here was to make it sort of like a more classic, wacky X-Men story or X-Men to run an event where
this felt like they were in the Mojoverse or something.
Yeah, and I think it felt like there's some place that is trying to, the story is trying to communicate itself in a way that's not serious, but because all of these characters are taking it so seriously, it's diminishing that wackiness, that wacky value. It's sort of taking away from the nonsensical stuff, like Pog is actually just a small dude inside of a suit. We're gonna look at one of the other competitions was spell magic, and she spells it with a K instead of a C. Like, they're all silly beats and silly moments that, because we're in a fight to the death, all of the wind gets taken out of that sail, and it's not as enjoyable, or it's not as I feel confused about how I'm supposed to feel about it, because some of this stuff is just stupid. But other times, like, you have to take in all of the people that you've ever killed with, what is it, the White Sword and Wolverine. I'm like, well, shit, that's heavy, contrasted with Magic not spelling the word right.
That's a good point, Marco. It's atonal, or it's tonally
inconsistent.
Inconsistent, yeah. If we were doing a romp kind of thing where everything was just, a Mr. Mixel-Spitlick adventure of shenanigans, that'd be one thing. And there's a space for that. Those stories are good in their own environment. In fact, a lot of those early Mojo stories in the X-Men were the X-Men having to do with things that didn't make sense, were unfair, and they had to overcome it. And those stories worked. The fact that we're being juxtaposed with like so much blood and gore and death, especially in the other Ten of Swords issues we read this weekend, versus the nature of this competition of it being so silly, it don't work in the same book.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that line of thinking. Mojo, who of course does get referenced in this issue, I'm not sure if we're supposed to take that as a tease or just his commentary on what's going on, is crazy, and he's supposed to be like a very huge leap, but an allegory of television executives,
right?
And you understand what he's about. Saturnine is not that. She presents herself in a way that this is not what you expect from her.
You're supposed to take her seriously.
Yeah, I thought we were. And then there's a dance contest in this book. It's just it doesn't make sense. And it's super frustrating. And no one's calling her on this. Like, the characters don't seem to be that fazed by the fact that this doesn't make sense. Yeah, and Magic, for example, in what Marco brought up, where she misspells the word magic. Okay, so the fate of the world is on the line, and you want to be cute?
To be fair, isn't she Russian?
But she speaks great English, bro.
That doesn't mean she spells great English.
But also, there are spellings of magic with a K.
Come on, you guys know
CK.
That she knew what that was, and she was just doing it because that's how her name is spelled.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. That's the other thing with the Mojo stories and stories like that. I brought up Mr. Mixel-Spitlick. Our point of entry characters constantly point out how this is not the way things are supposed to be or should be. They're pointing out, along with the reader, that this is not normal, right? Characters never seem to react in Ten of Swords to the absurdities that are taking place. Everything's accepted on face value.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But I actually will say there were a few moments in this issue that I did like. For me, it wasn't all bad. So the sequence with Captain Britain and Redwood,
Root.
Red Root, sorry, I really liked. I mean, it was dumb, right? That they're just having a race, but Red Root as a character, I felt like really shined in this sequence. I felt for her, and for the first time, I actually wanted to see one of the Iraqi win. Or I guess I didn't want to see her win, but like I was kind of rooting for her because she was like, I feel the wind in my leaves, and she's moving so slow, and you know that. But she says when Saturnine announces her as the winner, she says, "I won, but I've never won anything before," and I felt something. And that was cool. And then that made it all the more devastating when Jim Jaspers, the piece of garbage that he is, locked her away because she broke that item.
Yeah.
So that was a good. I thought that was a good character moment. Marco brought up the White Sword and Wolverine moment where they have to look at all of the people that they've killed, and Wolverine couldn't deal with it. He looked away or he blinked.
Yeah.
That was great. Gorgon running into the water.
Yeah, that was good.
the rock sirens. That was hilarious.
My dude was ready.
Yeah, he totally was. And then the fight between Death and Storm was legitimately good. That was what I want this book to be.
Yeah, but
it was frustrating that was the only one of those types of things that we got. You know, like a real fight.
Well, and and we'll get to this in the other two reviews, but it's wild that it felt like a gear shifted, and now all of a sudden we're fighting with swords and things matter. You know what I mean? Like it felt like it was wacky and weird, and then now it's serious.
Right.
Definitely didn't fit with last week's books, that's for sure.
And the score is so lopsided in this issue, 17-6, that by the end of it, I was like, okay, so what bullshit are they going to pull?
Yeah.
To get us to the point where things are not that way. And of course, we'll have the answer to that in a little bit.
Better not be satisfied, listeners.
From an art perspective, I felt like this issue was all right. I don't think I like Kasara's style too much. It works in spots, but the faces, everything looks a little bit. I can't think of a better word than plastic. Like, I don't know. They're just not working for me too much.
Yeah, there's some like form issues. I think like one of the things I noticed was Captain Britain. I mean Avalon over here. He his body proportion looks a little off or something. Like
that's weird.
His legs weird. His body's small and squat. I don't know. There were small like things around. I actually kind of liked some of the faces. Like there was one actually. I think in that same page, or the previous one over here, where what's her face? Saturnine's like walking in and stuff.
Yeah,
it kind of reminded me of like the quietly sort of like his like roundedness face or something.
Sure.
But I mean, there were hits and misses. But yeah, I kind of agree overall. They were like it was fine. The art was it wasn't exceptional, but it was serviceable.
I really like the colors though.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, the page with Death and Storm, for instance, the color of the red night sky with like the black sun, just gorgeous colors. And the next page with like the weird Baraka looking ghouls, like the shading of the blues on Saturnine's chair, just a beautifully colored book.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it wins on that front. And I gotta be honest. The concept of Storm beating Death in that battle just doesn't ring true for me. And that's something that has frustrated me throughout, is that the Iraqi seem like goons. They're not powerful. They lose when it's fair, they lose every time. And that wasn't even fair. Storm was depowered by the drink, and she still beat him, and he's supposed to be this battle-hardened mutant who's been alive for all this time, centuries, and fought in wars and everything, and he's just a joke.
He gets punked.
He gets punked by someone who didn't even have their powers.
She breaks his sword.
Two things. The one Iraqi guy, she's not punk. She, whatever her name is, the one the one that was always catching all the cups and stuff in the dinner issue.
Iska.
Oh,
yeah, Iska. So she's been presented as a real threat. But the other thing is, Sean, way back a few weeks now, you didn't enjoy the fact that we went out of our way to have our characters grab their swords, and I defended it with the caveat that this gives us an opportunity to kind of establish our antagonist more. And really, at this point, there's like only two of them that seem to matter any, and that's White Sword and Iska, and obviously Saturnine or Genesis. Yeah. So
even with Iska, she didn't win against Psylocke, or I guess Captain Britain. Saturnine cheated. Why can't we just see the fight play out? Like, I get that
booking.
It's wild. Like, if Iska is supposed to be that much of a badass, let's see it. Don't tell me that. Show me that. Okay, she can catch some cups. Let me see her beat some ass.
That's a different book, Sean.
Nice.
But when they have to fight,
it's on Kickstarter.
Well, let's get into our next book here. So now we're gonna get into Hellions number 6. This was wild. This was very crazy. So this was by Zeb Wells, who wrote it, Carmen Carnero on art, David Curiel on colors, and lettered by Ariana Mayer. So this was following up on the journey of Sinister's Hellions to try and steal the swords of Arakko. Quickly, they're informed by Tarn, who is the Iraqi version, I guess, of Sinister, that battle. Yeah, that battle has already started. It's going really badly, and Sinister doesn't care. That his agenda had nothing to do with that. He wants to go to Arakko to steal the DNA of the mutants over there, and he brought the Hellions basically to be his bodyguards. That is a good twist in my mind, because on its face, I thought that premise made no sense. Now, the fact that the Quiet Council bought what he sold doesn't make sense to me, but that Sinister would want to do this, that does make sense to me.
He's such a little bitch.
He is. And I actually really enjoyed the Locust Vial. They were creepy.
They were great looking.
Yeah.
So the Iraqi Mr. Sinister, I was bored with his design. He reminded me of the dude from Return of the Jedi with the weird like penis around his neck. You know what I'm talking about?
Fisto?
No, not Kit Fisto. I'm from Return of the Jedi.
Hit like Jabba's right hand man.
The Twi'leks.
No, not the Twi'leks.
Yeah, the Twi'leks. Yeah.
No, the Twi'leks they're the slave girls. I'm talking about the dude that had like the weird penis thing draped around his neck.
I think they're the same. Yeah.
Are they the same race? Okay, I'm sorry.
I think
so. That's who he reminded me of. But then when we saw his mutants, oh man, looked great. They kind of had like the Court of Owl masks kind of thing going on. Like there's something really spooky about like a white mask with just like with no features, but then like these like haunting eyes behind them. Great stuff visually.
Yeah, I love Sick Bird because that is a weird name. Yeah. And I love Amino Fetus because he is a big poopy boy. I have problems with how zany the Hellions book is in general. It wasn't as bad here because Sinister obviously doesn't care what happens, so he can be as wacky as he wants to be. But for everyone else, this was a very real fight to the death, and you know they barely escape with their lives, and then you know we get to the end of the book where we ultimately realize that Sinister had no intention of them making it out of this, and he kills everyone else who lived, and lies and tells the Quiet Council that they were attacked and murdered. This was all about Sinister.
Yeah, this was the best issue of Ten of Swords that we've read in some time. Yeah. The conflict was real, and I felt the dire stakes of the characters. Like when, for instance, Havoc gets his hands cut off, like it felt permanent. And this is comics. Nothing feels permanent, but it felt permanent in that moment.
Yeah.
Or Wild Child being like going after them to let them escape and stuff like that. That was another thing where you're just like, well, like obviously this has implications because they're not gonna be able to revive him now. Like, he's just gone.
Well, that's the case with all of them. Yeah. Oh. Well, it is the case with all of them, but Wild Child, yeah, you're right. Wild Child he's gone. Gone.
Right.
Not so wild anymore.
Yeah.
Dead.
The stakes felt high for these characters, and that's something that's also been missing is the stakes being commiserate with how they're like responding. And so that was great. Havoc got his ass kicked.
That's what he does best.
I really, really thought this was one of the better issues of this entire event.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss an issue because they come through the gate beat up already?
I think that's just how the time has passed.
Oh, okay.
That's because the last issue of Hellions was long before even the dinner.
Okay.
In you know the other part of the story.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah. That was my impression as well. One thing that I think might matter is doesn't the horse die? Does the horse die here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it gets like left behind or something.
I think it's King Jaime's horse.
Yeah. So that might end up being a problem for them a little later on. Just a little plot thread. But yeah, I thought this issue overall was pretty strong.
It was certainly a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It was, like, I think I still felt the same way about the Hellions as I did when I read the last issue, which I didn't feel was great. But as we stated, the stakes here felt real, and it felt really dire. And then at the end, like the turn is really satisfying, which is something that we haven't felt in a while.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's unclear to me is how Sinister was able to escape from Tarn.
No, that's the previous one. Because remember, he made a clone of himself, and one of them had to go.
That's it. Yep.
Oh,
you got it. That's a good point.
That was the one waiting and hiding for when they would come back.
Yeah.
God, Sinister is such a standout of this Dawn of X era, this Hickman era of X-Men. He's been terrific this entire time.
my immediate thought after resolving that issue was they got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, he's got to go in the ground in the middle of Krakoa with Sabretooth.
Yeah, this him and Sebastian Shaw need to go. They are pieces of garbage, and they're ruining it for everybody else. But what's wild, and this speaks to the hubris of Professor X and Magneto. Sinister, they brought him on knowing what he is, just to compile the DNA of mutants, which is a big job. But I don't know if he's the guy. He's not trustworthy in any way.
No, but their hubris, man. It's everything Moira was warning about, right? In her logs, these two men.
Yep, exactly. So let's get into the last book of the week, which is Cable number 6. This is Jerry Duggan and Phil Noto. So it picks up immediately where we left off with the last book, Hellions, with Sinister reporting on what happened, the death of the Hellions. And
that exchange between Kate, Emma, and Sinister was just so fucking savage.
Yeah.
I just could not. I read it and immediately posted the page in our group chat because I could not hold that. So good.
He shines here. Like, how evil does this motherfucker get? He shows up late to the meeting over a cape, which is consistent. He's been on and on about these capes since his introduction to this series, and he's performed perhaps he's probably performed the most evil action since the banishment of Sabretooth. He's so sociopathic here. It's amazing. There's so much flair to him.
And we have knowledge from Powers of 10 that at least in a prior life of Moira's, when they do this, that Sinister will betray them. We also know that this Sinister is not the same Sinister whose mind was wiped by Professor Xavier and Magneto. Mm-hmm. So this can only get worse. This is really bad. And he's trying to convince them to close the gate, because if anyone is still alive on the other side who knows what he did, his goose is cooked.
That's right.
I hope it's him. I hope it's the other version of him.
That'd be so funny.
So all the Sinister stuff certainly was very effective. And then we get into another scene that I also really liked, which was Bay versus Cable.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. That was a real fight. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, that was a good action sequence. And I like how they made it more so about like his feelings about himself, and less so the fact that they're in a fight. Like she defeated him, but more so was just around his pride, and like that was an interesting element to the fight.
It was his heart.
Yeah,
it was his heart. The heart, like, had he been the Cable of old, the adult grizzled war veteran that that we normally see, had that been the Cable that was present here, she dies easy.
Yep.
But because he's still young and cares about people in a way that he doesn't as an older person, he paid the price. They paid the price. And I thought that was a great way to advance this character who needs some more development for sure. Again, though, the only problem I have with this is that Bay got punked. She won the fight, but she lost the fight, right? Like, she won it because she fought a kid and he thought too much about his friend. And she got by. She escaped. These people are supposed to be the best warriors ever. Why is she losing the Cable?
Well, it's okay, Sean, because the very, very well developed relationship between her and Doug, that is what kind of saved the moment here.
Right.
So
yeah.
That was a payoff, Sean. That was called a payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Of the sort.
And so now it looks like Cyclops and Jean are going to come over and try to rescue their son.
Sure seems like it, yeah.
Hey, here's a question.
Well, you'll definitely like that.
Why are they waiting till now to do that?
Well, beforehand, Sean, the stakes were established as being really low, not very serious, like nothing was going to go wrong. So like they thought, it's like sending our son to summer camp. It'll be fine.
I also feel like this has only been like there was the night of the dinner and then like the fight. And I feel like it feels to me like this has only been like 3 hours.
Well, okay. Any amount of time, right? If they could just cross the gate and just go and influence what happens in this contest, why are they not there? It's just like even the Cable aspect of it, like, okay, fine. Yeah, they want to protect their son. That should not be the impetus for them to go here. If there's the ability to stop this and make things right, you got to go.
Well, isn't it good?
I was thinking about that with Jubilee too. I guess this was the first issue of the fight when she flies in with the dragon. Saturnine like takes the dragon and like gets rid of Jubilee.
Yeah.
Like it seems like she wants absolutely no outside interference.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the deal here. I think that kind of fits the plea for help from Cable, which is, I think, the idea of most of Krakoa showing up or whatever, or any other people from Krakoa showing up is an act of war or an escalate. This, for all intents and purposes, this, tournament, I think, is meant to, prevent all-out war between, the Iraqis and the Krakoans. So I think the idea that people from Krakoa show up on the other side, I think would be seen as an act of war.
And yet it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
I don't feel like Saturnine. I don't feel like Saturnine cares about that.
She does. She severed the connection between Cable and Scott and Jean, right?
Yeah, but
we're seeing that at issue 19 of 22.
I think she's more interested in playing her own game.
Yeah.
To bring Arakko and Krakoa into the Otherworld fold. I don't think she cares about the war. Because if she doesn't get her way, she'll just let them wipe each other out anyway.
Sure.
I also think she's just pissed about Captain Avalon denying her advances. She's not used to not getting what she wants.
Sure.
And
been there, guys.
I feel like they're paying the price for that more than anything.
And she's being spiteful about it.
Yeah. But then the White Sword and Gorgon are going to fight. And this I was really excited for.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they didn't have them in like a striptease contest because that would have sucked.
Yeah,
I want to see them go at it. But White Sword's caveat that he has to beat the 100 swords or whatever they were, his 100
his like servants.
Yeah. That was cool. I was like, oh man, damn, Gorgon is not like, how's he gonna survive this? And I was very into it. Then I realized that those battles were counting in favor of Krakoa.
So stupid.
Why?
So stupid.
I guess because they're deaths. Like the thing is first to the death, but
yeah, but they're not.
I know.
The swords people.
Look, I know.
They also counted a misspelling, so like, why?
True.
Why?
That's what I mean. This whole thing is so flaccid, and it's so we're well beyond the point of stakes even mattering. It's like watching Space Jam, and when they go into halftime, the Monstars are up like 70 points on the Toon Squad. Like at that point, the score doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, okay, you're referencing a cartoon movie.
That's what this feels like.
Yeah, but that's a problem.
It is. I 100% agree.
How dare you reference a cartoon movie in this discussion about a cartoon book, idiot?
Agreed.
The story itself, the battle itself is cool. I like if you get rid of the whole concept of keeping track of the score, like the way it resolves, it's really good, including Apocalypse punctuating it by saying like that's how a mutant dies.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good note right there.
Yep, definitely.
It's just when you think about it in the macro of the entire story, it's stupid.
And then the score is 19-19, which is, I don't even understand that, because the score was 19-18. Oh, Krakoa got the lead. Okay. So yeah, Krakoa got the lead from what Gorgon did, and then he gets killed, which gives Oracle that last point. And now we're going to see Genesis and Apocalypse go at it.
Good thing all the battles before this have really amped up the stakes for this conflict, huh?
Yep.
What are they gonna have, a make-out competition? Who can sign the divorce papers first?
That battle log was super frustrating because you get like literally an itemized list of all the bullshit they have to go through, and I did not like that last piece. Like it was supposed to be like, oh cool, like this is everything that's happened, but none of it matters. So why even show it to us? And especially considering if you look at 23 and 24, it goes from 18-6 to 19-19. Like to your guys' point, like it's stupid.
That said, Gorgon, he's the MVP of this tournament. He's the only reason I win it.
And Gorgon's a cool character, and I feel like they've done a lot of build up for him, or enough to make him someone that I cared about when he died here. Which, is he going to become a servant of the White Sword, or are they going to be able to resurrect him? A lot of those things are murky because we got a lot of dead mutants right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of them died on the wrong end. So that'll be interesting to explore going forward. But I wonder if the writers realize how much they undercut their own story. I really do. I think all of them are so talented, and all these books have been so good up until now, but they took the wind out of their own sails with this, and I just don't see a reason why. Granted, right? Like, okay, if the score had to get, it was like 1st to 20, I guess. That's the impression. So if it was ultimately going to get to 19-19, you're not going to have all those battles. That would have been a lot to show. I get that. And if in the end they still wanted to do the Gorgon White Sword battle this way, fine. If all the other battles were legitimate, but you needed a quick way to run up the score, all right. I'll grant you that. But you can't show me a kitten, kill a kitten battle to get a point. That's ridiculous.
That shit sucked.
Yeah. And it's like, look at how good this issue was. I feel like this issue of Cable was really good.
Certainly the best of the tournament that we've seen, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Hellions was even a step up. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if all the issues were around this quality, we'd be having a totally different conversation.
The problem with these two issues, Sean, is that we still have the issues from last week.
Right.
Last week's 3 issues completely cut out the knees of this week's issues. Like, these issues were good, and they made up for it a little bit. But the fact that those exist, again, it's like we're operating on a flimsy foundation.
Yeah.
They're able to avoid the holes in the floor, but, there's still holes in the floor.
I also feel like if Saturnine was going to, do this to them, there were ways to do it that would have made it be something to feel for more. Like if the Captain Britain Iska fight happened later, and it was a fight that mattered. Like the points at that point were really tense. It was close, and she cheats for them, and they're all like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? How could you do this?" And she's like, "It's my tournament. I can do whatever I want." And now they realize that they're up against a wall. To me, that's way more tense, and it makes things feel so much more important than this. Why did we waste our time seeing them get their swords and all this extra stuff if they weren't even going to use them? Oh, they were teased. Okay, fine, whatever.
And then it would establish the fact that the characters know they're being played, right? Like they would know that this is a rigged game. Like I guess we know that, but like the characters aren't reacting to clearly bizarre shenanigans. Also want to point out what a dork the White Sword comes off looking. He's responsible for Krakoa even tying it because of him just throwing all these dudes at Gorgon. He comes off looking like a chump because of that.
I don't agree with that. I think he did that on purpose. No. I think he did that on purpose because he has clearly an axe to grind with Arakko, and they have a long-standing history with each other. He could have beaten Gorgon at any time. That's the impression I get. But he wanted to do that to make Arakko feel it.
All right. Last point I want to make is last week, Sean, you made a point that this story feels like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
Where, the points don't matter.
Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Yep.
That's what it feels like this week, too.
Exactly.
Can I... what did you guys feel about this art? Because I had major gripes with it.
Go on.
With Phil Notos?
Yeah. Like, I know him as a more traditional artist, but all this digital stuff, like the here's a good example, like the fog smudges. It's just a bunch of smudges. Like it's supposed to be fog. There's no, you just turn down the transparency on something and it's like, oh, it's fog. Or, yo, my dude cannot draw feet. Hold up. Check this.
Leave it to Marco to be the one looking at feet.
And he messes up on White Sword's face. So this is, his normal, like, oh, I'm scary looking or whatever. Then over here looks mad goofy. The doy.
I saw that face, yeah. I like the doy, by the way. Good touch.
He looks super goofy. And then I don't know what's going on with his feet over there.
He's got triangle feet, man.
He has triangle feet. And then hold on, wait. And then if you notice, both Apocalypse and Genesis.
In that last page.
What's going on there? What's up with the feet?
Yeah.
I thought LIFO couldn't do it.
I tend to agree with you, man. The digital stuff is really a bummer. And then also I feel like the scale of some of these characters just wasn't up to par. Like I think Apocalypse, I think him and Genesis actually look tiny on the last page. Like they're
like squatting.
They're not, like they're squatting, but like they don't look big. Apocalypse is supposed to look really big, and he doesn't. It looks like two toys posing rather than two titans going to battle. And that was frustrating. Some of the facial work was real good, but then again, there was other times where it was a little wacky. Like I think he did a great job with magic. I think he did a great job showing Cable where we're supposed to feel for Cable when he realizes that if he kills Bay, he's killing Doug's wife, which. Can I just point out how dumb that is? He didn't know Bay until like yesterday, and now all of a sudden Cable really cares about killing Doug's wife. What fucking bizarre world are we in where that makes sense?
Bro, it's second law of Krakoa. You gotta make babies. You can't stop that from happening.
And they have a holy union under our Lord.
That's it. Under the good book.
God, I love that you both put it through this, like the prism of how you both process things. Marco's like, yeah, they gotta fuck, and Cale's like, Jesus.
Yeah, you're right. It made no fucking sense. This whole fucking thing is I am resisting the urge so hard to say it's bad, but I'm not having a good time.
It's not bad. It's mediocre.
And that's the key, right? Is like, I'm with you, Cale. The only caveat is that all of these issues actually had things in them, and I'm referring to this week's issues. All of them had things in them that I really liked.
Yeah, 1,000%.
This week was definitely better than last, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and Big so it's like, man, if you just treated this the way you treated it in the last two issues for the whole tournament, this would be beautiful. But that's not what we got. So we have to come back next week and wrap this puppy up as it relates to our reviews for Ten of Swords. It will be ending next week. I am excited for Apocalypse and Genesis. I feel like they will treat that seriously. It's hard for me to believe that, that fight, the only one that really had like strong buildup, that they would tarnish it. It's happening in X-Men. X-Men 15, so that should be good.
So we're gonna see X-Men 13 again. But well, from a different perspective, obviously.
Yeah.
So at least Hickman is going to be the person dealing with that. That's kind of cool. And we'll know ultimately, do they land it? Do they land the ship? Everyone involved is talented enough to pull that off. So my hope is the answer will be yes. But let us know if you guys agree with us or disagree. Rammer wrote in and he felt differently. He wrote a whole diatribe on our Discord server about how he's been into this and his take. So if you've got a different take than ours, we are dying to hear it, because clearly we're missing something here. And I've checked Twitter, and there's a lot of people feeling a lot of different ways. I will say it's mostly negative, but there are people who like it. So if you're one of those, feel free to write in. You can talk to us about anything we talked about on this week's episode or anything else you've ever heard us do. If you're enjoying our book clubs, which people are finding, again, we've got a whole host of book clubs out there that we've done. I implore you to check the list, because as I've said before, I bet you there's something on there that you like that we've done a book club on. So go check that out. Of course, go follow us on social media if you haven't done that already. Write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. Get us on YouTube, where you can leave us a like, drop a comment, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you're made aware of when we drop new content. If you are an audio-only listener, give us the gift of heading over and subscribing to our YouTube channel anyway. Couldn't hurt you. And you get to see our faces. What's so bad about that?
And my chest.
That's true.
And Marco's chest, which, I understand if you want to avoid our YouTube. And last but not least, you can come hang out with us on Discord. We're all very accessible on there, except for Phil. He's a diva. And you can interact with us in the great community that we are building over there. Come be a part of the pals. And I promise you won't regret it. Let's get into the plugs. And we will start with Cale.
You can find Pete at loud_Pete. He doesn't need to know podcast where they talk about, I don't know, PlayStation or something on what's it called? I always forget. Podcast?
Loot Pots.
Love that you chose to do the plugs.
The show
Podcast?
is called The Podcast.
Podcast. Oh, it's a show about weed. Great. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. No, not Twitter. Well, you can still find me there, but I'm not on it. At Toto Into, that's TOTOINTOW. You can find my work at caleward.com, CALEWARD.com. Talk to me about Star Trek. Fuck all this shit. I want to talk about Star Trek. Star Trek rules. On the Discord, of course.
Marco.
You can find me at Mr. Marco Enomoto on Instagram and Twitter. Come talk to me about. I'm almost done with My Hero season 4, which has been excellent. Sean, honestly, that's an anime for you, bro.
I don't think he'd
That's
like it.
like, no, are you kidding me?
No.
What season are you on?
I finished season 2.
Oh my god! All right.
I like it. I like it. By the way, I want to make that clear. I watched 2 seasons of it. I don't think Sean will like it.
Really? All right.
Yes.
Well, I disagree. But if any My Hero fans out there, come to the Discord. I've been enjoying it. It's been really, really good, especially the new season.
I thought he said Arrow, and then he said it was an anime, and I was like, did they change the definition of anime?
Oliver Queen anime, dude.
And otherwise, I'm reading Odessa, which is a comic. It's a YA graphic novel, and it's all in pink, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't. I'll probably share thoughts on that either in the Discord or just generally.
Awesome. Phil.
Yeah. So Sean alluded to our book clubs. We have Kingdom Come dropping in 2 weeks, right out of Thanksgiving, basically.
No, tomorrow.
So that'll be a good one. Oh, I guess it is. Whatever. I did a great job. That plug.
Oh shoot! I have to edit that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I gotta get that shit done. No,
I shouldn't have said anything.
Gotta crank that out. Yeah, I'm actually about to finish Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watch things.
No, you're not.
Slowly.
You're gonna edit Kingdom Come.
That's a good point. I got 3 episodes, which is the last 3. I'll probably at this rate, I'll come back for next Monday's episode and be like, all right, I'm almost done. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I got sidetracked with a little Comics Pals project that I couldn't finish it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CyborgBebop. Get on me to make sure I finish that book club.
The streets need it, Phil. Okay.
Yeah.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram only at Sean Soapbox. Hit me up to share your woes about not getting PS5s and wishing death on people who use bots to buy things on the internet. It's a bummer. With that, we're the Comics Pal signing off. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Remember, Geiger.
Geiger.